thoughts on the amount of fans that are also part of the furry fandom who also like to combine your music with furry stuff? I assume you most likely don't care about that type of stuff, but it's something I keep thinking about now. Yeah, it don't bother me at all. Like, I think, like, yeah, furry stuff's weird to me, but it's not, like, alienating. I'm not, like, repulsed by it or anything, so I'm not, it takes quite a lot to repulse me. Like, I'm not weirded out by it, the way a lot of people my age seem a bit weirded out by it, but, maybe because I don't think it's that weird to want to dress up as an animal and go around being an animal character. I think that's not that weird. You mentioned that using some machine learning. What areas of composition or sound design do you find it useful for? Yeah, so what I don't want to reveal because it's not stuff I'm using out there yet, but will be because it's already in the setup, and it's like I don't think it'd be that obvious what I'm using it for, and I don't like really saying in advance of using things what I'm going to be using them for. So, but yeah, it's not using it in a way that I've heard other people using it, so that's cool at least. Because I was quite sceptical about how useful it could be to me for quite a while. It took me a while to figure out a way of using it that I was comfortable with. And yeah, I think I found it, so that's cool. But I don't want to talk about it yet. I'll talk about it later though. Promise. Greg Bear's Blood Music. No, but I'll read it. Defo. Do I practice meditation of any kind? Not like formally, but I do a lot of staring into space and drifting. So regarding mindfulness, so I've read studies that say that what the brain is most active when it's not doing anything, when you're not tasking it to do anything, so you're not thinking about anything in particular, right, consciously. So you're just kind of drifting and letting your unconscious guide what you're thinking about, and kind of not really thinking about anything in particular. And that's apparently when your brain does most of its long-range forecasting. So it does its predictions, and it kind of builds predictive models for what's going to occur in the future. And mindfulness gets in the way of that by making you focus too much on the present. So I like my brain to do its thing. So I'm a little bit skeptical about how powerful mindfulness is. And that's why I'm a little bit reluctant to say that I do anything approaching guided meditation, but I do let my mind wander a lot, and I do a lot of staring into space and just, I guess you could call it daydreaming, but just randomly thinking about things, but not in a very directed way, just letting my mind wander and thinking through things, and not even thinking necessarily, just staring into space. CCRU, I don't know what that is. Tell us what that is. Accelerationism, I don't think I was interested in that. It sounds, if that's that shit from the late 90s, that bloke who seemed to me to be a little bit of a kind of crypto-fascist, I can't fucking remember his name now. Tell me his name and I'll tell you if it's the right guy I'm thinking of. So I'll come back to that question in a minute when I get further down the chat. Do you do any drawing, painting outside of graffiti? No, not really. Mostly letter forms and stuff, because I'm a bit fascinated by letter forms, because I'm a little bit disabled with regard to letter forms. So which is a complicated topic. Did you set out to make XI a double album? Yeah, it was just we don't set out to make anything really. It just sort of everything just grows and assembles itself. The music makes itself in a way. Popcorn, butter or canola oil? I'm not sure I know what the difference is, because I'm not like... I mean butter, I guess, because that's normally what I'd use, but I've used olive oil in the past. Like, but the light stuff, because it has a higher smoke point than butter, so yeah, I'll tend to use olive oil for things if I can get away with it, because it's just quite good for you, from what I understand. So I just synthesise those short yet heavy kicks like in Eco 4 and the live sets. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just a bit hard to describe the patch, but yeah, I mean the transient part of it's fixed, so that's just sort of hard coded, and then the rest of the kick is just it has a flexible release, but I have it just very short. So it's a drum sim that we made. It's a bit hard to describe in a few sentences. I'd probably just have to show you the patch, and I'm not likely to do that, so sorry. Bit Sophie, I've talked about that already, because Sophie wanted it, so I've got all the bits to product. I've got all the bits, all of it. I've got all the Elektron patches as well, so if I ever get my Elektrons back off mic, I'd be able to recreate the tracks using the Elektrons, which is quite cool, isn't it? It's quite a cool thing to do, to send all that stuff out. Sophie was cool. What drew you both towards the complete nonsense track titles from Choristis onwards? They're not nonsense, but it was mainly a byproduct of the way that we started having to file vast amounts of stuff, because we were producing a lot more material at that point, because it was quicker to produce it, so we needed a kind of filing system that worked, that made sense to us. But there's a lot of our earlier track titles were nonsense as well. Like, what the fuck does Augmatic Disport mean? Really? Augmatic Disport. It's not really... That doesn't mean anything, does it? Or maybe it does, I don't know. Answers on a postcard. Hello Spiral, I have a t-shirt with a gaping anus on it, with the caption, "Make America Gape Again." I've never worn it outside. Well, that's on you, innit? You need to get that shit worn. I'd definitely wear that in my house. Problem with MIDI 2 is no one wants to spend the money to be the first one to implement it. We were asked to consult on that, and when I told him that I didn't like DAW sequencing because it had because it didn't communicate the note length to the instruments, they were like, well, we can't do anything about that because everyone wants to use keyboards. So that was the end of my fucking interaction with them over that. But I'd have loved to have been involved in it. I mean, basically, I think it's going to be good for microtonal geeks when it eventually lands. So it is a thing now. Yeah, it's already. Nick Land, yes. Yes, I was thinking about Nick Land. And no, I'm not interested in his shit at all. I find it really kind of... It's like fucking... It really reminds me of like a British noise artist who's a bit of an edgemeister. I find it deeply annoying. So tell me what you think about Nick Land. See if we're on the same page. I've heard you dream all the time that dreams are like noise when the signal disappears, but the noises they're always like signal to noise ratio. Yeah, I'm probably down with that. I mean, that's how it feels for me, because I get these weird intrusive ideas and thoughts. They don't seem to come from anywhere rational, and I'm not making them appear. And I get this thing a lot when I'm working where I'll get a memory of a random place that's associated with a certain type of activity when I'm patching or when I'm tracking, and it'll just sit there and I'll be kind of in this place, and it's quite often from a viewpoint that I've not been in physically. It's almost like a camera was somewhere else in a part of the world that I'm familiar with. I don't know if anybody else gets that. They're quite intrusive. Where's your buddy? Bristol. I don't know what doing. Probably having a barbecue or something. I know in the past you said it might be boring, but I bet a ton of us would love to be a fly on the wall if you do a Mac stream or something one day. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I know, like, people are interested in how we do things, but I think it's better if you just do your own things and let us do our things. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's that exciting. I think a lot of it is that there's too much trial and error in it for it to be that informative for you. Because seeing when I have my aha moments and how I refine things down might not be that interesting to you. Because I think you'd just be listening to a lot of stuff and thinking, this is just shit, what's he doing? You know? And I'm thinking the same thing, you know, this is just shit, what am I doing? So I don't think that's that useful. Do you have a feeling of how the new patch will turn out? Like, yeah, you sort of, I'm guided by intuition a lot of the time. Favourite gigs of yours with Shoreditch Car Park, and in particular the warehouse project with LFO. Oh yeah, that was the first warehouse project in Manchester when we had lasers for once, which was fun. Do you think you'd go back to that sound? That was the 2005 Electrons sound, so unlikely that I'd go back to that sound in particular, because it was very much a product of its time. I mean, the Electrons probably only happened because of shit that had come out on Warp, because I know Daniel Hansen were a massive Warp head, and you know, we were using combinations of gear, me and Rob, to do like quite odd things, and the Electron kind of presented it back to us in a box with a kind of, you know, a kind of tracker underbelly, if you like, that, you know, and it was a kind of rationalisation of a lot of ideas that would have previously involved using lots of obscure particular pieces of equipment. So, and it happened when it happened for a reason, and I'm not sure that you could do that again. You know, that piece of hardware was very much a product of the musical environment that it grew out of, and then I'm not sure that I would want to go back to that position in time space and do that again. So I don't know, probably not, but they're only on loan. I've just lent them boxes out because I kind of reached a ceiling with them, and I thought, okay, I'll just lend them to somebody who's got a different set of ideas and a different approach to me and see what they come up with. So Mike's already doing tunes with them, so that's nice. How messy are your patches? Yeah, I tend not to slam stuff together, or if I do slam stuff together, I tidy it up very quickly. I'm quite a tidy patcher these days. I didn't used to be, but it just became necessary for legibility and all that. So, yeah, I don't really find it difficult to come back to stuff now. I'm quite quick at, but I also have a very particular way of laying things out. So I'm, you know, that helps to have a kind of, I won't call it disciplined really, but it's just habit based, you know, so I can kind of recognise things quite easily now. It's not hard for me to read my own patches. I find it harder to read other people's, but that just depends on how they patch. Like a lot of the Max tutorial patches are extremely clearly laid out, and people like Graham Wakefield are extremely clear in their layout and explanations and comments and stuff. So I think Graham's patches in particular have been really useful for learning Gen. But yeah, there are other people whose patches I'll see and just think, what the hell's going on? Like, I just can't even figure this out. And if there's too much abstraction in it, it can be a little bit difficult to kind of dig in and out of all the layers to try and figure out exactly what the signal flow is. So I tend to leave things as upfront as I can and use abstraction only where it's necessary if I need to make gains by having lots of instances of a process or whatever. So there's this comment about FL Studio and Ableton from Vectroid. I kind of like, yeah, FL's really different to other programs in that sense, but I don't know, you just use what you use, don't you? Why don't you just use all these programs instead of just using Ableton and then worrying about it? I mean, just get all the other programs as well and use them all. And you'll find that some of them are better at certain tasks than others, you know? It wouldn't take you long to learn Logic or Reaper or fucking any of these, because basically the fundamentals are the same. It's just some of them are better at doing certain tasks, so... Polyend, yeah, I've seen Polyend stuff. Like Polyend Tracker and Polyend Play, they look fun, honestly. And I'd probably use them if I was using MIDI gear, so, you know, I think they're on the right track, no pun intended. FFT plugins that I've enjoyed. Strictly FFT stuff, I don't know, because you never know like how much of a thing is FFT. Like I always thought Adaptive Herb was a nice plugin, but I find it a bit identifiable. But then if you need something to ring out like that does, then it's good. I think, but it's not really strictly FFT, is it? So, I don't know, like what is an FFT plugin? Because a lot of stuff, I suppose, like Tom Herb's Spectral Compand is really good and well designed. You know, that's good. That does what it says on the tin really well. So yeah, probably something that Tom Herb's done. Probably that. Because I think that's quite a solid, useful little tool. I haven't used it in a while because I've done one in MSP that's similar. So sorry, Tom, for ripping you off, but you know, I needed it to be native. How do you usually deal with durations in Max? So the duration is generated by the sequencer and then just sent to the synth, and then the synth, depending on position and duration, will do different things. So it's not really a standard setup in that sense. It's a little bit odd, but it makes it a bit easier for me because I think more in terms of serial durations than like absolute position, and it's nice being able to have the notes changing depending on duration and position. So yeah, that's about as descriptive as I can be without either being really boring or revealing too many secret sauce details. Do you feel like there's any particular live sets that should be regarded as album quality or discussed alongside other records, or you find that live sets are something more for the hardcore-ish fans? Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, from my point of view, nowadays they're like probably more work than the albums are, because there needs to be enough flexibility and variation within it, but it also needs to be very designed. So I don't want it to be something that's just like off the cuff, because of the way I work is too trial and error for that to be useful to me. But at the same time, I don't want it to be like nailed down. So there's some degree of, I don't know, flexibility that's, and building that into a long piece, like an hour long piece, is quite demanding compared to making an album where everything's just finished, because you want the flexibility to always sound good. So you don't want it to be like flexible in a way where it's just going to sound shit if you just whap some parameters. So, you know, so yeah, how work things are, it's sort of an awkward question. Like, you can bust out the live set really quickly, but the work that goes into making it beforehand can be quite long. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really dictate how people are gonna approach things. Personally, like I've found some people's live albums to be more rewarding than some of their recorded stuff, depending on what kind of band they are. Um, like there's that Black Sabbath live in Paris, 1971 or whatever it is. That's like phenomenally good gig. That's much better than the recorded versions. Um, so like I think sometimes it doesn't. I don't approach things as being like this is the product and this is just a live set, which is the way a lot of other people do. So I think maybe I just have a different view on it to other people, and we're not going to. I don't expect other people to approach it like that. That's just because I do, Someone saying I get the same places all the time when patching. Yeah, right. It's weird, right? It's weird. Why places? And what is that? What's happening there? Why is this? What's this tie between carrying out a little process mentally or physically and sort of having this particular place that pops up? Why is that going on? It's dead weird. And they don't seem to relate to each other really. Um, of all your generative works, and I know you guys are all about pushing the bounds of sound, do you ever think of releasing a work that utilises classical instruments solely? Yeah, so like, no, I mean, generally no, because I'm not that interested in doing it. It's just not. I don't know. I'm just not that interested. I don't think there's enough room for me doing a lot of trial and error experiment. I don't want to call them experiments, but experimentation at least for me, involving trying out lots of different ideas and then finding something that works. So doing that with classical instruments would be really time consuming. But it is something I could do in theory. But I don't know. Maybe. But I know Workham have made a thing that can translate any sound file into a classical score. Can't remember what it's called now. So I guess you could use that, but be a bit suck it and see, So I don't know. I've had dreams that are like long convoluted TV series. Great question. Do you still have your CME Bitstream? Nah, Rob's got it. That was Rob's, but I think he's still got it. Yeah. Everything's on Sysex. I know he's just like Sysex demon, Rob. So, do you ever actively go bird watching? Nah. Username checks out though. I am a horse. Wait a minute. I am a horse. Why did it see? This is so weird. This I am a horse thing. Why are you saying that? There's some hardcore track or something that says I am a horse, and me and Rob were trying to remember what it was the other week. I am a horse. I am a horse. What is it? Is it some meme thing that I've misremembered? I was thinking it was an hardcore track. I don't know. My memory's all fucked up these days. I'm gonna try Electron Sunday, but don't pine for gear anymore. Just make noise. Yeah. I've heard you sent Box high scores before it was released on Scam. Yeah. So if so, have you heard any of their super rare stuff? I don't know how rare. I mean, I had Old Tunes 1 and 2 on tape before Scam picked them up. So, yeah, don't know. A long time ago, all that now. Have you ever used a DX7 before? Yeah, a bit in college, but I didn't get my head around it there. And then I think I understand it now because I had a DX100 for quite a while in the 90s. and I understood that pretty fully. And then I just jumped straight into having an FS1R, which was a lot deeper. But so the real answer is no, but I'm sure I could get my head around it. What's this now? How do you process Milk D's rap in the track Milk DX? It's not Milk D. It's a DX100, but it was in its pitch bend, and it's just played with the pitch bend, and it sounded a lot like Milk D because it was sort of going. So yeah, that was it. It was just that's why it's called Milk DX, because it's a DX100 that sounds like Milk D. So it's weird people actually think it's a sample, because it really did sound quite a lot like Milk D on the day. I was like to Rob, listen to that, it sounds like Milk D. So that were it. That were it. So there you go. So yeah, a lot easier than processing the vocal. On a chance of an all-out noise album, it's too conservative noise. It's just like you already know what the parameters are before you even walk in the room. There's a few artists I like I like Lasser, I've mentioned him before. I like Incapacitants. I like bits of Merzbow stuff, but I mainly like Merzbow when he's not being very noisy. So, what constitutes noise is a bit narrow. So I'm not sure that I would want to do a noise album. And it's just too easy. It's just too easy. It's just not that interesting, It's noisy, okay. Things are overdriven. It's quite monotonous. It's annoying. And a lot of things qualify as noise that I think aren't necessarily that noisy. So, and things, I don't know, I just feel like it's a very narrow kind of, it's too narrow, it's too restrictive. So no. And I think the whole noise scene is just really conservative. It's safe as fuck. Because it's all laid out for you already before you even make anything. You already know what it's going to be. Yeah, what about that whole notion of an Autechre produced hip hop album? Yeah, maybe. I don't know how interesting that is. My ideas of hip hop are from another time, because I grew up with b-boy culture and it being about being fresh and kind of inventive and pulling moves that nobody had thought of. And that's not really what hip-hop's about much now. It is on a subtle level, and if you're really into it, you'll find the tunes. But there's an awful lot of hip-hop that's just totally by the book. It's the difference between, like, wearing a pair of shell toes because you're appropriating something from a sportswear company, and the sportswear company aren't aware that you're appropriating it, right? So you're doing it on your own terms, and it becomes a kind of, the culture's doing it, maybe. Or you're just doing it as an individual, like you spray painting your trainers chrome, which I did once in the 80s. Like, that might be the kind of thing you'd do. But like if Adidas or Puma market a trainer that's all chrome, that's not as cool, is it? It's just not as interesting. And if they're marketing trainers directly to the actual culture, and the culture are buying the trainers that the trainer company are marketing, then what's that? That's not the same thing. So that's like a different thing. It's like, because British sports casual culture, it came from kids going out to Europe to watch football and then coming back with weird Adidas trainers and flipping it. And that was a different thing to people actually just buying them down the local shop. You know what I mean? It's like there are levels to how cool and interesting it is. And similar with making hip-hop now. I think, like, you can make hip-hop that just sounds like it's off the shelf. You can make hip-hop that's original, but if you make it too original, it won't ever be a hit on the commercial circuit. So you have to strike a balance as a hip-hop producer, where you're kind of being fly and fresh, but only to some extent, and otherwise you're towing the line. And yeah, that's not what it was about when I was growing up, really. So I've got a funny view of all that stuff. I preferred it when it was about being fresh, really, you know. So yeah, I mean, if we was allowed to do that, and we would be, because we're us and we can do what we want. So I guess maybe it's just finding MCs who are going to be down with that, with you just making it a bit fucking different, you know, and not different in an obvious way, you know. There's a few producers still doing that. Not like everyone's shit, is it? Do you think there's still a developing scene in modular programmable DAWs like Max, Super Collider, etc., where it can grow both in terms of the market of technology and music output? Don't really understand that question, sorry. I mean, maybe. I think they're just tool sets that allow for you to do a lot more, or they create more possibilities for you to explore different spaces of things. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely room in there for people to explore stuff, because there's so many configurations, even just in Max or just in Super Collider, there's probably a shit ton of configurations that nobody's done yet. So, you know. Last night I was thinking that for the crowd it would be a cool experience to watch a live show, laying down when played in darkness, no twats trying to film darkness, just letting the music come over you. What do you think? That happened once. We did a gig in Baltimore and all the kids did ketamine and lay down in sleeping bags. Because you know what Baltimore's like? It's fucking mad, isn't it? And it was just mad. We were like, the fuck is happening here? And then these lads come up to us and say, hey, we're the guys who started the IDM list. And we were like, oh, fuck off. Like, and then there was all these other people just laying around in fucking sleeping bags on ketamine. And I was thinking, Baltimore's weird, isn't it? It's a bit weird, Baltimore. Never seen anything like that since either. Did the 1/6 sets feature a remix of Letter L? Yeah. Yeah, that's what that was. But it's also a remix of an older tune, which I'm not going to tell you the title of, but it's on the Warp Tapes. There's like a full circle type thing, that. Do you see yourself ever getting bored of Max in the foreseeable future, or is it more likely that Max is the thing that you're going to be using until you stop altogether? I mean, I'll use it until I get bored. I don't want to say either way. I'm sure there's always a limit in terms of my interest in things, but Max is one of those things where I'll keep thinking of new things to try and trying them and then liking it. So, you know, if it gets to the point where I can't be bothered, or I can't think of it, or I'm not feeling inspired enough to try out something in it, yeah, maybe I'd stop using it. But I can imagine it'd always be there as part of the studio. You know, I might branch out and start incorporating other technologies again at some point, but I haven't really had the need to do that. So, and I really like having it all in my bag, because it's just good for redundancy, it's good for reproducibility in terms of me and Rob. It's good for travel, keeps costs down, means that we're not using loads of fuel to move our stuff around. So there are loads of reasons why I like using Max and software in particular, but in particular Max. And also the fact that, you know, I can have gear, I can be running gear that nobody else has got. So there's a sort of exclusivity element to it, and there's a kind of b-boy element in there as well, you know, having everything being custom. I've grown up with that kind of mindset, so, you know. Someone saying the awesome thing about Max is it's endless. You get bored with one patch and you can build a new one. Yeah, and also like the fact that it's the more you do, the more you do. So if you're building tools, you build one tool, okay, you can use it in a few different ways depending on how many settings and parameters it's got. And then you build two tools and you can use those. And then you build like 4 or 5 tools, and then there's combinations of tools that you can use different combinations in different ways. And then, when you've got a few hundred, it's just crazy the number of combinations. So you can almost not get bored just using shit that you've built yourself without having to build anything else beyond a certain point. But when you couple that with constantly being able to modify everything, so if a synth isn't quite doing what you want, that you can just create a copy of it with a new name and just give it another function. It starts to become endless. Like, I wouldn't say endless, but obviously there's a finite range of possibilities, but it's like atoms of the universe type stuff. It's like, it is finite, but it's way beyond my ability to catch up with it. So was Acroyear named after the Micronauts toy? Yes. Acroyear 2 in the US and Acroyear 1 in Japan. So I named it Acroyear 2 because I grew up in the UK and we had the Mego line. So we get on a Micronauts conversation now. The Micronauts were cool as well. First time anyone's asked me that. What's this about labels? I'm trying to get back to this. Was it entirely Warp's decision to not release L-Seek on any physical formats? No, it was ours. It's a long story. When we first set up the store, I wanted an opportunity to release some stuff that people might complain about if it was released on traditional album format, because I got the sense that the industry was sort of, to some extent, holding us back by saying that you must produce an album that feels like this and has tracks that are this long and these kind of weird restrictions. So I wanted to have the store as a way of circumventing all that. And this is why we can do quite weird things like the long form Twitch stream stuff, because I know that most people aren't interested in hearing one track for 5 hours. I'm not stupid. I get that. But at the same time, I enjoy it, and I know that some people would. So why not do it? And I've thought that about a lot of things over the years. Why not just do this because I like it? So, yeah, that was the kind of thinking there with L-Seek. We didn't really want to burden people with a 5-disc set of that kind of stuff, but we thought if we just shoved it out on digital, we'd have low costs, low risk, we can do it, and it's just for the music, right? So if we make enough money back, it'll be cool. So yeah, that was the reason and the thinking behind it, and why we didn't plan to release it on physical at the time, and why we announced that. If it looked like there was mad demand for it, for a physical version of it, we'd do it. But at the time, I just wasn't sure. I was just thinking, these tracks are long as fuck, man. Is this okay? I mean, it's okay for us, we like it, but is it okay from a commercial standpoint? Are people going to stand for it? Are they going to complain, that they don't have this many hours in a day to listen to all this stuff? And it's like, well, I don't want to be a burden on you, you know what I mean? I'm just like doing it for the love. So if you want it, we'll put it out there. So yeah, that's what L-Seek was. But when we come to doing NTS, we kind of knew that with the boost of it being on the radio, that we might be able to get away with doing a physical for it. So we pushed it a little bit, and it turned out to be a wise move. But it was a gamble, But we would have done the same for NTS otherwise. It would have been digi only. But Warp were pretty convinced that we could move physicals of it, so we tried it and it worked. So fair play to Warp for taking a chance on that, because I probably wouldn't have left to my own devices, but I approached them with it and they were up for it, so we did it. So it's always a bit of a compromise between us and them, you know what I mean? We come up with a weird idea and we hit them with it, and they're like, letting us know if they think it's going to work or not. And sometimes we just think that there's too much of a limit, and they might be trying to push us into doing more with it. So they might think, oh, we could do a physical of this, and we might think, not sure. Like with the live sets, that was always going to be too much for people, and that's really, the store exists for stuff like that, so that we've got an outlet for stuff that's just pure digital. So yeah, that was the thinking. It was sort of a bit, we didn't really know, you know what I mean? We just wanted to try it. Is there something you miss about composing songs like Flutter? I mean, no, because I'd be doing it if I missed it. I've still got the gear, so there's nothing stopping me getting the EPS and the R8 out and doing Flutter 2. You know, I just don't feel like doing it. So, but you're all welcome to have a go if you want. You know, just get the sound effects card for the R8, sample some kind of arbitrary sound like a vocal or something, and just knock out your own version of Flutter. I think there's like a quad reverb on there as well, so you might need that. Not hard though. If you want it, just make it. Oh yeah, I forgot to change the filters. I'm sorry about the filters. You know. Yeah, I'm scrolled up. Do you want me to scroll back down? Right, I can't. Well, you can't say, can you? Because I've scrolled up, so I won't even hear you. Let me scroll down really quickly and try and skip a few questions. I'll skip anything that I think is vaguely uncomfortable. I Am a Horse by Horseman. Is that true? Is that really what it's called? I Am a Horse by Horseman. I'm going to look for that later. It better be that. I am a horse. Am I just imagining it? It's weird. You know when you're not sure? You just got something in your head. I am a horse. I tried Googling I am a horse, but that didn't really get me anywhere. Well, certainly not nowadays. I shouldn't say Google, I actually use DuckDuckGo because, you know, it's supposed to be more private. It's not, is it? So, I'm sure it is a bit. But do you reckon some DAWs are shit with shoving way too much visual feedback on musicians and that ends up influencing music a bit too much? What should DAW makers do about it? I don't know. I mean, I don't like the timeline because you can see when things are coming up, so you get this apprehension thing. I prefer forgetting and then listening and just making sure that the funk's right. I think in some ways that's what's good about trackers, because it's just this list. You don't get that visual kind of thing telling you what's coming. So I don't know, it depends on how you're structuring your projects though. Sometimes it's not that easy to see where things are because, you know, but often, yeah. I don't know, personally I find it easier to listen to music if I've not got any visual feedback, right? So just shut my eyes or like turn the screen off. I used to do that a lot using Logic at first because I found it a bit disconcerting. So I'd just basically, when I was listening back, I'd switch the screen off. I think that's the best way of doing it. But it's having the discipline to do it every time, you know. I'm just looking for questions. I'm cruising the timeline. Right, so will we ever get a release of the Tekka thing? I don't know. Yeah, there's no digitised version of that. I talked about it earlier. One of the tracks is on the Sweatbox thing. The other one isn't out there, as far as I know. Hopefully nobody leaks it, but, you know, I don't really care if they do either. But I'm not saying leak it, by the way. When I say I don't care, I just mean it doesn't matter to me either way, really. But it's just I don't own it. Like when I said that about that Hano thing, you got to bear in mind, right, that I don't own the Autechre tracks on there. They're not mine. They're Warp's. So if you're leaking it, it's them that you're getting in trouble with, not me. So me okaying it doesn't mean it's okay. You get me? It just means I don't care. So. And I didn't okay it anyway, so Column 13, I think it was a live set cell. I don't know if we'd used it before NCS came out. I think we might have used a bit of it. I can't remember. But yeah, most of NCS sessions was like cells from live sets, either at the time or a bit prior to that we already had jams for recorded, so we were just editing them down into things. And we basically like made it knowing that it was going to go out on the radio, so it was kind of, it was a different editing process to what we'd normally do, you know. So bits of it were from before, bits of it were from just then, bits of it were made specially for the thing, for the broadcast, you know. It was a combination of stuff. Alexi Parala, yeah, I like Alexi Parala, what I've heard of it, but I don't know, I've probably only got old stuff. Probably just some files I got off Rob Hall at some point. But I'm kind of shit at buying electronic music, modern stuff, so... do you find playing the instruments? No. I mean, yeah, computer, but is a computer an instrument? Let's have that conversation. I can't believe he isn't familiar with Villa-Lobos's work. It's like not having heard of Basic Channel or something. No, it isn't. They're different artists. I'm totally aware of Basic Channel, not aware of Villa-Lobos. So, sorry I don't know it. Like, should I go and listen to Villa-Lobos? They probably just sound different. Gantz Graph and Feed, one of the closest you guys have ever gotten to doing noise. No, they're not noise. They're just sort of certain types of processes. I wouldn't call it noisy. But I guess it could be. If you can't hear the individual events or whatever. I think they're just kind of like dirty synths on Feed 1, and Gantz Graph is... Well, it's Gantz Graph, isn't it? No. It's certain kinds of... I wouldn't call it noisy. It's not noisy. No, not really. I've heard way noisier music than that. I think noise is supposed to hurt to some extent. I think that might be partly why I don't like it. But also the kind of people who do it are quite boring, really, when you meet them. Really predictable. I'm skipping anything that I've been asked before, so I'm sorry if I seem to be ignoring your question, but I probably already answered it. Can you elaborate a bit on the process behind the Confield Live site? I hear lots of FM synthesis. Yeah, I mean, it was like... So I had the Nord lead, and Rob had the Nord modular, the original one, the G1 or whatever. And then we had Max running them, and then there was a couple of tracks where we used MSP to do the synthesis, and that was all FM stuff, just real basic 2-operator FM stuff. And then there was a bunch of kind of MSP processing on that, like gating and chopping up and kind of weird reverb delay things that we'd done, but it was all quite basic processes, just using them quite heavily, you know. With a lot of modulation. I guess you'd call it modulation. The sequencing was the main thing. How do you load patches during live? Using some kind of queuing system that would turn certain modules and X-bars and turn certain on. Yeah, there's like a global pattern that contains information about which modules are loaded and what pattern preset each module is going to look for when it gets loaded. So, and that forms the kind of basic structure of the set. So we can move through that manually, and we can jump around and do what we want within that, but we quite often move in a semi-linear fashion through it. So essentially, yeah, they're kind of the information about which modules are loaded and which settings they're going to look for when they load is hard set, but it can all be flexed, and the patterns can be morphed with each other within each module. So if we have like adjacent settings, we can morph between them, sort of thing. So yeah. Where'd you get your ideas from? Where'd you get your ideas from? Yeah, not answering it. fucking question. Fuck off. Like, that's that question. You never ask someone that. But obviously I know that. Right, wait. Right, I'm down at the bottom. I'm at the bottom. Can I ask about Disengage, yeah? Ask me about it. Building anything that high level in Max is just crazy to me. Stuff gets so messy. Yeah, not really. This is so fast, this chat. This is why I can't keep up, right? Do you process samples and stuff live, or would it be more sequencing sims? Yeah, more. Has the XI stuff ever been played live? No, because the rig wasn't capable of playing live at that point. It was only useful in the studio. Tell me Confield stories. No. I've seen chats that make this look slow. Yeah, I'm sure you did, but I'm too slow. For Villalobos, I'd check out the Fabric mix. Okay, I will. I will check out Villalobos. I'm not dissing it off. I just haven't checked it. There's lots of stuff I haven't checked, you know. I'm not like a fucking librarian. So I'm going to the Barbican and Turin to catch you guys. Thanks. Yeah. Sign your vape? No. Would you bring Cygnus on a US tour again? Yeah, why not? Be fun. He's a DOS to hang out with. Are you working for Cygnus? I don't know about Kanye and apples. That's not. It must be. What are you talking about? Visit Sheffield for some shows. Yeah, we never get booked to play Sheffield, which is weird because I did live there for quite a while. Have you heard Sam Interface's beats? No. What was the approach to the Disengage mixes? It wasn't mostly us, it was mostly Andy and Rob and all the other guests come lot, and Glyn. But we done bits for it, little bits of mixes and stuff. You can usually tell mine, because there's usually some Soviet France in there. What Soviet France should one check out to prepare for the London gig? I don't know, ask them. I don't know what they're doing this year, so get on their Twitter, ask them. I'm sure they won't tell you. Have you ever tried to make 303 acid in Max? Not authentic, no, because I'm not like up for that. I don't really do emulation. It's just why, and also I'm not sure I'd be able to do it because the 303 is pretty unique. Maybe. I managed to get a filter sounding quite a lot like it, so. Did you ever get into EBN? Yeah, massively. I fucking love EBN. That's a really good question. And I'm glad you asked it. And you can probably tell from the Twitch streams as well. If you know, right? So. That was a really good question. I'm really glad you asked that. I think EBN don't get enough shouts, you know. I think he was really good. Yeah. And funny as fuck, you know. Get down. Yeah, fucking brilliant, EBN. Not mentioned enough. Especially during, when like YTP got really fucking interesting in the late 2000s, just before the tennis thing happened, because I love YTP tennis shit. Yeah, exactly. It was the original, weren't it? Totally was. I remember first seeing that and just being like, holy fucking shit, what is happening now? Like, what is this? Like, yeah, amazing. Funny as fuck. Really good when you're tripping as well, because it's so ridiculous, you know. Okay, Radical TV, I will. Dali Mini, yeah, play with it a bit. Like it, fun, you know. All about curation, innit? All about getting the right prompts, you know. I love getting the prompts just right. Yeah, I did watch Breaking Bad. I'm a mild fan of it. It's alright, you know. I found some of it a bit. Yeah. Some of it was cool. Never watched Better Call Saul. Okay, I will check it if it's much better. Lexi. Good shout. Thank you. Okay, I'll check it. Yeah. I really like BoJack Horseman, for what it's worth. So. Yeah, everyone's saying Better Call Saul's better than... Okay, yeah, I'll watch it. Yeah, BoJack's ace. I am a horse. Yeah, exactly. I'm a horse. Let's not do the I'm a horse thing anymore. No, I've not read David Foster Wallace. Recommend me something. This is good not scrolling the chat. It's fucking hell. It's a bit different, isn't it? King Gizzard. Maybe I've heard of them. I don't know what that is. Greg Egan I've had recommended to me a few times. And I've never checked him. But his stuff's meant to be pretty good hard sci-fi, right? So I'll probably get into it. Infinite Jest. Yeah, somebody recommended that shit. Okay, yeah, I will check this. I'm getting a long list now, which I'm probably going to forget most of. Lanark Artifacts I've heard, yeah, pretty good. Do I know Carl Pilkington? I know I probably sound like him to you. You know, when I first heard Carl Pilkington, I was like, I'm fucking sure I know this guy. He sounds like most of my mates. He's got a similar buzz. But that shouldn't be surprising, right? Because it's probably just from the same part of town. Similar sense of humour, maybe. There's a fucking really funny bit that Carl Pilkington did. I think it was in one of them shit Ricky Gervais things, because I just used to listen to it for Carl Pilkington, when he's going on about washing up and accidentally spotting a neighbour, like in a state of half undress because she's getting dressed, and then like anyway, I'm not going to do it because it's funnier when it comes from him. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. It's just really funny. Yeah. He just gets his arse out. Yeah, fucking hell. He's gone a bit weird, hasn't he, Ricky Gervais, recently? What's he on now? He's on some sort of turf tip. Can't get down with it. Don't know what he's doing. Anyway, let's not get into that. Will you play Dublin again? Yeah, yeah. I mean, pretty soon, hopefully. I have applied for DALI 2, but they don't give a shit about me, do they? So, you know, if I was a tech journalist, I'd have it already. Pretty sure of it. Do you have a target loudness for shows? Yeah, no less than 103 usually. It's not it's just dBA though, so it's not really loudness level, is it? Too bad Dublin's a shithole. No, it isn't. Don't be like that. I've got a lot of friends in Dublin. Any special thing about Dublin? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, having mates there helps. You know, it's good playing anywhere where you got mates, isn't it? All your mates show up. So my hearing is like on this side. It's not as good as it is on this side, but I can't tell. Like if I hear a signal, I can usually tell if it's centre or not. So it's kind of weird. If I just listen, if I block this ear off, I'm not hearing too good, but my brain's somehow equalising things, so, you know. But it's basically from years of having the monitor on the left side, so it's shot this ear a little bit. over the years. But it's weird, like I say, I can just tell if a signal's mono or not. I don't seem to have any kind of bias when I'm working, you know. Yeah, it's weird. Do you protect it from those 103 plus dB? I mean, that's going out front, right? So I'm behind that. So I'm not hearing it at 103 at all. You lot are, though. So you might want to protect your ears. But I'm doing it for the body, basically. So if you want to wear hearing protection, that's up to you, innit? You interested in ambisonics? I mean, a bit. Yeah, I've learnt a bit about it. Mainly because I know someone who works with it all the time. So, but she's much better at using it than I am. What's your advice to the Gen Z generation? Well, you're all getting a bit old now, aren't you, Gen Z? Aren't we on fucking, what's the next one? Generation Alpha. So, Gen Z, yeah, don't let somebody else give you your identity and tell you what group you belong to. Don't let that happen. Just figure out who you are yourself, you know. That's what I'd say. There's people getting outraged about things that aren't really worth getting outraged about as well. And then there's people who are getting outraged about things that are... And the other thing is fucking recognise that there's some of us, I'd say like quite a lot of us actually, most of the people I know, have been more right on than you lot are for most of our lives. And we're not just a bunch of boomer cunts. So you've got to understand that. You know what I mean? We're not like... We're not the way you think we are. So, yeah, I don't know, that'd be my advice if I had to give any, which I fucking hate giving advice, so don't ask me that again, please. You know what I mean? Some of us were nice, you know what I mean? Fuck off, I'm Gen X, me. And Gen X are fucking... We're supposed to be slackers, aren't we? So, and do I seem like a slacker to you? Is that how I seem to you? And plus, you know, there's two more things I've got to say, right? One is that in the UK, these generation labels didn't apply until the internet, the advent of the internet started to spread them around the world. So we didn't use these terms in the UK. Gen X wasn't a term used in the UK until the internet. And the other thing is that boomers in the UK didn't exist full stop. Did not exist because after the war, tax was so high in the UK, no one could afford to have fucking kids. So we didn't have a baby boom in the UK. We don't have boomers. Boomers don't exist in the UK. People need to get a clue about that, no. So anyway, it's all for marketing. Yeah, probably. Yeah, no one called themselves Gen X. No one in America in the 90s was calling themselves Gen X when I was there. No one was like, we're Gen X. Yeah, no one gave a fuck about any of that. Bloody Gen Xers. Yeah. How do you manage to live as a musician without going insane? I don't know, maybe I am insane. How do you know? Do I seem that sane to you? I'm probably not that sane. Probably, I mean, I might be a bit insane. What classical music you listen to? Not a lot. I mean, Ligeti, probably. I listened to Shostakovich for a while because I quite liked how his melodies go off on weird tangents. I think some of his stuff is quite mad. But in general, I find a lot of classical music a little bit like pirouetting through emotional states, and I find I'm not like that. I don't enjoy the experience of it, even though it might be like musically smart or whatever. Berio, okay, I'll check Berio. Feel free to recommend classical to me that you think I might like, based on what you've heard of us, you know. Thoughts on OPN? Yeah, I love OPN. I think OPN's brilliant because he's really found his own voice within a kind of a sea of shit. And yeah, I find him very interesting from a kind of intellectual and conceptual standpoint. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. You know, he touches on things. He's not like always like aesthetically exactly where I'd put myself, but I think he's very definitely doing his own thing. So that works for me. Any vaporwave you like? Yeah, Mac Plus. Let's do it. You know, I like Echo Jams. You know, what can I say about it? I don't want to name just them, but you know, they're the two that I'm the most familiar with. So let's have it. Yeah, come on, accept it. Can the ship of Theseus sail through the sea of shit, or do you reckon it'd sink? Yeah, so is the ship of Theseus fungible or not? What do you think? You don't have to say that, but thanks, Beck. Appreciated. What do I think about chiptune? I think it's all derivative of Team Diobi. No, I'm joking, you know. But yeah, I feel like I was there at the start, you know. I seen chiptune spring up out of nowhere. Not really. Is crypto a lot of bullshit? I'm not saying an opinion about crypto. So I'll just have people calling me a smooth brain. So, and we can't have that, can we? Yeah, I think it's like funny, the crypto thing. It's a bit like a cult, you know. But it's also really driven by a lot of speculators, and you've got to recognise that, you know. If you've got a lot of money, then crypto's a useful tool for making more of it. But I don't think we should be speculating using money. I think it's weird. Currency speculation, it's a bit like currency arbitrage. It's a bit like, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think money should be a vehicle for investment, really. But you know, in terms of whether it's good to have decentralised currencies, yeah, probably. But maybe not using some kind of collective ledger that takes fucking years to process, you know. There's probably a better way of doing it. And yeah, I don't know, proof of work versus proof of stake, and I don't know whether we're really there yet. Everybody talks about Ether moving over, but I'm not sure when it's going to happen. Has it happened yet? You know what I mean? I'm not a crypto expert, so don't start asking me loads about crypto. I'm not. I just have some pretty ill-informed opinions, you know what I mean? So yeah, exactly. Yeah, the thing about it sucking in people who were on the left because they thought it was an alternative to fiat currency, and then them ending up being tech bros and bullying people on the internet because they're not using crypto was just fucking perverse as fuck. You know. You into Tom Waits? Yeah, a bit. You know, there's a track by his What's He Building in there that I really vibe on. I think it's fucking really good. Yeah, some of his stuff's really fun, and yeah. I ain't heard Beyonce's new album. Should I hear that? Is that good? do you master your own stuff? Nah, I get like Noel Somerville to do it because he's really good, but he does mainly what he's trying to do is make it sound the vinyl sound the same as the digital. So he doesn't, as a rule, doesn't touch the digital, and then does as little as possible to the vinyl, or at least he processes it in a transparent enough way for you not to tell that it's different to the digital. So that's why we use him, because he's very good at doing that. And that came from him, actually. It wasn't us going to him and saying, don't touch it. It was, we took our stuff to him and he just said, I don't feel like there's anything I need to do it, so I'm going to do this. And we said, okay. So, yeah. But I really rate him. He's really good now. He's just fucking really good. What's your favourite filmmaker? I don't know. Tarkovsky. Fucking... Do you like Kendrick Lamar? Nah, not really. I mean, it's a bit issuesy, you know. It's alright. I feel like it's trying to please people. And the music doesn't really vibe for me, so... Yeah, I love talking to Noel. He's fucking super experienced, really knows his shit, you know. Very transparent guy to work with. Very easy to work with him. Doesn't fuck you around. Not heard any new left field. How many times have you seen Pi? Once, I think, maybe twice. Favourite Euro rap module? I don't know. Don't really have any Euro rap modules. I've got a load of old ones, but Rob's got them at the moment, so... probably... I mean, if I had to name one, it'd be from 20 years ago, but it's probably the remake of the Bode Frequency Shifter that Analog Systems did, so... Because that thing was really nice. No, I've not seen Requiem for a Dream. Is that the one about drug addiction or something? I've not seen that. I think someone recommended it to me once, and I thought it sounds a bit depressing, so I didn't bother. Is it good? I'll watch it then. Okay. Am I a fan of Jay-Z? I don't think so. Everyone's saying it's really depressing. Someone's saying it's a shit movie, don't watch it. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I just thought about it and thought, nah, I don't feel like I'm in the mood for that. So I didn't watch it. If I didn't know it was going to be depressing, I probably would have watched it. So, one of them, innit? Don't watch it. Okay, I won't watch it. Yeah, I'll watch Better Call Saul instead, because you told me to. So, yeah. Have you watched any anime? Yeah, bits, you know. Trainspotting? Yeah, nah, it's a different scene. Heroin addicts in Scotland. It's not really my background. I'm a different generation. All these questions about things I don't know about. Not use Circlone, but it looks like fun. You can see why you might want to use that. Rather be doing my own stuff, but yeah, looks cool. You into horror movies? I guess, maybe a bit. Less into them than I used to be. Probably because they got a bit samey. Yeah. I've been asked this question about a massive SoundCloud dump, Aphex style, about 20 times now. I wonder why that's like a meme question. Yeah, I don't know what's interesting in Manchester outside of the whole 80s scene. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to list a load of things that are cool about Manchester, but it's mainly about the people, you know. So it's like if you like being around them kind of people, then it's a good place to be. Do you like hiking? Yeah, I guess I do. Did you ever do a microsound album? I don't really know what that is. Um, is it where you have lots of short sounds? Is it still Manchester? Nah, it's not like that at all now. It's like very different. It's been kind of gentrified quite a lot, and there's a lot of Suds around, but there's still a lot of locals, you know. But depends where you live, really. Have you ever tried limiting yourself with equipment? Yeah, I mean, I am limiting myself to just using a computer and Macs, so it's just very unlimited at the same time. I don't know about this limitations thing. I mean, I get that it's like attractive to people, but I think that it might be a bit of a misnomer in a lot of cases, because it's, you know, there's still probably like a lot of combinations of parameter settings and stuff on whatever gear you're using. There's very little gear that is actually limited in that way, you know. Thoughts on Talk? Yeah, I liked them. I liked them quite a bit. You know, Spirit of Eden, and even the sort of pop stuff I used to like. But there was a girl at work who got me into Talk, and she got me into Da as well, because I wasn't really into pop music when I was a kid. I was only into electro, and then when I started working in the shop, I used to try and sneak music onto the stereo in there, and they let me play Depeche Mode, but not a lot of the other stuff. Like I'd try playing house and techno tracks in there, and I'd get told off. So then, after I was playing Depeche Mode in there, she started recommending and Soul Mining was the first one I got into. I really liked that. And then Burning Blue Soul later. And then, yeah, and I like Talk as well. That was because of her as well. She used to play Propaganda and stuff like that. How high is your IQ? I don't know. 3. Do you ever talk to Apex's kids? No, I haven't. I haven't seen Rich in a long time, actually. Quite a long time. Talked to him a few times. Thoughts on Roxy Music? I should probably listen to Roxy Music, because whenever I hear a track and think, oh, this is interesting from that era, turns out to be them. Because some of their melodies, I think they sort of predate synth pop melodies in a weird way. So I'll probably enjoy Roxy Music. I've got a feeling I would. Susie and the Banshees, a little bit, yeah. I was more a Cocktail Twins kind of guy. Garlands, I liked, because that's a bit Susie-ish. But Natochka Nova. Yeah, that was fun. All that NN shit. I used to enjoy interacting with NN back in the day. Yeah, we're having a 4AD chat now, so I'll get in very kind of. Okay, so Kate Bush, yeah, okay, like I see Kate Bush get dissed, especially lately, because of all the attention. So there's been a lot of contrarians popping up. But you know, I think the Dreaming's phenomenally interesting, right? It's like super well made and weird, and I always really rated Kate as a producer, because I think obviously people talk about her histrionics and her weird fucking dancing and everything, but she's a good producer. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've always thought that. Since the 80s I've thought that. So I'd love to work with Kate. Are you serious? It'd be fucking amazing. That'd be like a dream come true. Fucking hell. Yeah, no, she was great. And so much more of an individual than a lot of punks. You know, which is, at the same time, you've got punk happening, right, where everyone's towing the line and being a punk. And then you got Kate, and what the fuck is Kate doing but being an individual? More of individual than any of them cunts, you know. I don't know, I hear it and all that kick. It's probably a fucking roost bus or some shit like that. I don't know. Some neighbour having a rave. Yeah, the mozzies aren't getting me today. I don't know why. But I noticed a few dragonflies yesterday cruising the garden. So I think they've moved in now. And they're now the bosses, the garden bosses. And they're dealing with the mozzies. I was wondering if I could buy a box of dragonflies just to take out the mozzies. And then they just showed up by themselves. So, got to rate nature, haven't you? Just looking after itself. What are your thoughts on rave culture? Would you guys ever consider releasing an album so people can remix it? Yeah, maybe. Don't know. Rave culture. I don't know if I can give you a reasonable comment on rave culture. It was co-opted so fucking quickly. It was good at first. You know, when we didn't know where we were going and we were meeting up at Knutsford services to drive to some obscure location or, you know, Blackburn raves. It was good then, but it got shit very quickly. So, we've been back to Manchester recently. Nah, not in a few months. Put up a nest for bats. That's a plan. How do I do that? I'll look online for a guide. What's your dream sound check scenario? At Ern Street. Yeah, Ern Street were a fucking good sound check. I remember walking around the room and being like, shit, this is going to be nice. That was one of the better sound checks from the last 20 years. Wait, what's this? How would you feel about a track of yours blowing up from a big show like Kate Bush recently had with Stranger Things? Well, I don't think it's ever going to happen, is it? People aren't going to get fucking misty-eyed over some old Autechre track. They're not going to be like, oh, Autechre, I remember them. Let's celebrate Autechre and send them to number one. It's not happening, is it? So, ooh, Bass Cadet, I remember that. Ooh, yeah. Let's send Bass Cadet to number one. Yeah, bike. Yeah, I don't know. No, I've never been to a Ben Frost gig. Should I? I don't really go to gigs much. I'm shit. I don't go to things. I'm just sat in my room with my laptop, so... Did you read The Wire? Nah. Sorry, I'm not dissing it or anything. I just can't be asked to read music, other people's opinions on music. Not when I can just download the music, so... rather just listen to the music. Would you ever score a film? Yeah, I guess. It's a lot of work though, and they keep telling you what to do. So I don't know if I'd enjoy it much. Nah, Murakami gets recommended to me all the time, and I feel like I should read Murakami. I saw that film The Burning recently, and I just found it quite depressing, but it was good. It was good, but it was quite depressing, you know. Do I like wolves? You mean the animals? Yeah, I guess. I mean, I like dogs. I probably would like wolves. I met wolves once. It was at a zoo though. Nah, don't know the third policeman. A longer version of T1A1. Is that even possible? The Bowler remix, what was that? Did you love the composition and his samples so purified it? Well, he just took his very simple piano things and then tried to make them more complex by just layering loads of them on top into, yeah, it's probably obvious what we did though. Yeah, I liked it. It was mainly just a way of approaching it that I didn't think that anyone else would take, so. Favourite YouTube channel? Yeah, this is going to sound like, I don't know, because it's, I like that guy, what's he called, Anton Petrov. I like his channel. There's a guy, Rob sends me, who's this engineer guy, who I quite like, and I can't remember his name now, but if I remember it, I'll comment it somewhere. I like ContraPoints, really, really well put together videos, like, and just beautifully formulated arguments, you know. Yeah, PBS Space Time, good. Vsauce, good. Yeah. Action Lab, good. There's a lot of them channels I just enjoyed just because they're fun, you know. I used to like Photonic Induction when he was around, but he's gone fucking missing, so I don't know what's happened to him. He was fun though. Numberphile, yeah, good. Yeah, Natalie is great. Hello Natalie, you're great. Yeah, Contra's fucking great. It really gets you thinking. It's just good. Really well formulated, you know. Really well put together and thought out. There's not many channels putting that much work in, so, you know. Do you watch much Twitch? Nah, not really. Should Gervais retire? Yeah, probably, because he's gone full turf, hasn't he? So he can fuck off. So I don't really know what tip he's on at the moment, but I can't get down with it. I think he's done that thing Louis C.K. did when he got called out, and then he's just dug himself right in, and he's just gone, this is what I want to be now, you know what I mean? And Finger done it now, Chappelle, didn't he? So I just can't get down with it. It's like a shitty response to the problem. You get me? Grateful Dead, I don't know. I want to, but I feel like there's a lot there to digest. People say that about us though, right? So yeah, maybe I should try Grateful Dead, because I used to like it's going to sound weird, but I used to like Hawkwind, because I kind of like how, I mean, I was young at the time, very young, right? So I have a kind of weird relationship with Hawkwind. It's like my dad's kind of generation music, but I kind of liked it because it was so out there, you know. And from what I understand, Grateful Dead can be a bit like that, so maybe I'd be into it. But, you know, what's the appeal of vaping? Nicotine, which gives you both a short-term and a long-term boost in cognition and memory capability. Any thoughts on Nietzsche? No. Yeah, obviously it's a vasoconstrictor or whatever, so it can be bad for you and it can give you a stroke. So, you know, use sparingly. Smoking weed make you smarter. Probably turns you probably makes you feel smarter. You know, it's like, dude. But, you know, I like it. I like what it does to music. I like how it really triggers me synesthesia like nothing else. So, especially when you have loads of it, if you do buckets or whatever, if you're into that kind of thing. I guess you call them gravity bongs, but we used to do them a lot when I was a kid. Fucking hell. But it's probably not very good for your brain, so I'm not recommending anyone do it. Plus, it's illegal in a lot of places, so. I didn't know about LSD. Is it vasoconstrictive? Is it? Shit. Sampled Hawkwind, yeah, we did. Yeah. Candy flipping, not done that for a long time. I never really got into ease though. I was a bit like, I was exposed to it and I had them a few times, but I was never really a big fan. And it was mainly because, like, when we was out, people would be listening to the shittest music and thinking it was amazing because they'd had a couple of pills. So it never really did it for me. It weren't my kind of thing. How did you find out you were sampled by ZZ Top? I don't remember. Somebody sent me it. It was back when it happened, so... Got the bees cruising around here at the moment. Try Changa. Nah, let's not have a big conversation about different psychedelics. It gets boring. You know, save it for the Psychonaut sub. But I'm interested in hearing any stories anyone's got about salvia, because I've always been like a little bit intrigued by salvia, because it sounds like such a rough trip. But I've never had it. Ever tasted your own cum? Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? As a kid. I think I was about 12 or something. That's really funny. No, it wasn't. What's this about Connect Project? Yeah, no, I was just finding number stations, because I sent a load of them to Bach, and then, because we were kind of going, what is this? And then Connect Project dropped, which was a kind of cataloguing of number stations, but I didn't feel like it was very comprehensive, to be honest, but it was interesting. Have you tried snus in Norway? Yeah, I mean, I get like white snus, so it's not really snus, but I use it just for when I'm on planes and stuff like that, because it's a good way of getting it in. So you don't have to worry about getting told off for vaping, which, you know, because I started vaping like 10 years ago. Longer, actually. Like 2009, 10. So, and no one used to tell me off for it back then. But they do now. DXM I've never had, weirdly. Although I think I might have had it as a kid and not known. Well, I think I did have it as a kid, actually. If it was in Actifed, I think. Oh God, everyone's on about cough syrup now. Like, it's not that good. It just makes you... I thought my mum was a monster when I had that shit. I was way too young. My mum remembers giving it to me and me having this mad trip and thinking she were a monster. That's interesting about the bathwater plug hole thing. Yeah. Right, I'm gonna get out now while this chat's descended into a awful comparison of the effects of different easily available psychedelic substances. And because it's been a while. So, yeah. I'm gonna love you and leave you again. And have a nice time and whatever. And yeah, try not to get too excited about the wrong things. Right, bye.